Welcome to another episode of Hoot and Poop. So I apologize for the lack of video because I have quite a fair bit of stuff recently. So here I'm back to come out with this video to share with you about Arqit. Okay, so without further ado, let me just get straight to some disclaimer. So first and foremost, I am a shareholder of Arqit, ticker symbol ARQQ. Therefore, whatever I'm sharing here are purely for educational purposes. It documents all my research, all my thought process. It's definitely not a recommendation to buy or sell. Right? So please seek professional advisors for any recommendations if required. Okay. Now, I'm going to go in depth into my Arqit sharing. So in the previous video, I actually talked about the differences between the current encryption method versus the quantum encryption method. And I have also explained to you that currently quantum encryption is by far the only one that will not be able to be hacked by hackers because of the laws of physics that we were talking about. And I also would like to highlight to you guys is that the reason why I'm interested in this company is because it's a tech company touching on quantum encryption. Okay, and for today's video, right, I will be going through their investors presentation, which I will share the link below. Okay, just go and watch it. It's a full half-an-hour video, but today I'm just going to go through a more summarized point of view from what I have after watching the investor video, and also to give you some of my thought process to see why this forms my investing thesis. Okay, so extracting from the video. Okay, firstly, when I look at look at companies, whether or not to invest, I always want to ask this question: is that what this company is doing, what they are solving, what is their vision or mission per se. So based on what you can see, okay, Arqit's mission is to use their world's leading quantum encryption platform to keep the world safe. All right, so basically save the data for governments, enterprise, and citizens, etc. So based on this question, I asked myself these few things. Number one, is quantum encryption a better software than our current encryption? So this has been solved by my previous video. So yes. So this just tells me that Arqit's missions do make sense in this way. Okay, so the second thing I want to ask is that what is the impact? What are they doing? Who are they impacting? So you can see now this that they are impacting the government, enterprise, and citizens. So basically, if I look at it, the TAM is huge for them because government signs multi-billion deals. Enterprises, depending on how many, if you talk about Fortune 500, can go up to millions or billions of dollars. So that's what we're looking at. So the next thing I look at is that Arqit's quantum tech is basically stacks a lot lightweight endpoint software to create blah blah blah. All these things, if I look at it, if I break it down, is that they are going into the cloud kind of platform, because that's the only way to make it endpoint software and to make it lightweight. Okay, so done with the vision, I want to know what are they solving. So we can see now the thing is that currently, PKI, which is our current encryption, was designed decades ago, which is true because we have been using PKI or RSA for the longest time. Okay, so now of course Arqit can say that the current legacy encryptions is not good, etc., because that's what usually company does. All right, they often have to pinpoint a problem of the current situation and then come out to say that their software are better and stuff. So that's something you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But in my previous video, I have also explained that legacy encryption can be hacked through quantum computing. And this is the reason for point number 4. Quantum computers will soon compromise the mathematics at the heart of PKI. So this is something that resonates with my own research. Okay, now sidetrack. To know more about quantum computers and whether or not what's their progress, you can take a look at another company called INOQ. Okay, it's not a recommendation, it's just something that I look at for cross-referencing. Now, I have not invested in them and I'm not sure what actions will I take, but just something that you guys can look about to see what is the progress or what are the tailwinds for quantum computers. Okay, so that's basically what we need. And take note of this code that was extracted by the National Institute of Science and Technology from the US Department of Commerce on April 28, 2021 is that they said, we need to determine where, why, and with what priority vulnerable public key algorithms will need to be replaced, and we need to understand the constraints that apply to specific use cases. So this tells me that, okay, based on the US Department of Commerce, they acknowledge that some of the legacy encryptions may be compromised, and that's why they need to identify which one. All right. Then these initial steps in developing and implementing algorithm migration playbooks can and should begin immediately. So the second paragraph tells me that a migration to a better software, which for now is quantum encryption, is something that we should take place immediately. Okay, so this is how I read in between the lines. Okay, so after understanding the vision, mission, and the problem, so we need to know what Arqit is all about. What are they trying to solve? So as you can see on my right, is that this thing called the quantum cloud. So in summary, is that Arqit is going into the cloud database to secure all the devices, to rather to encrypt security for government enterprises. Okay, and this whole thing forms the word called quantum cloud. Okay, now I want to draw your attention to the left side. This point number 2 is that they say by 2023 they intend to launch 2 quantum satellites, okay, for the network to become fully quantum safe end-to-end. So basically, when the satellite is up, okay, which you can see on the right, the satellite will provide the quantum security needed between 2 enterprises or between 2 humans and so on. Okay, now at this moment, I know that they actually signed a deal, okay, to launch these 2 satellites by Virgin Galactic. I will be showing more of the news articles in my subsequent videos, but this is what I know, that they have this plan in mind in 2023 and there is a deal signed. Okay, so this also shows that, okay, basically when this quantum cloud takes place, devices like phones, servers, cars, who they want to communicate with each other can communicate in a quantum safe environment. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. Okay, and as what I have mentioned in my earlier video, quantum encryption at this moment, it is not being able to be hacked. So this goes down to my last paragraph, where they said that the keys are computationally secured and can never be known by a third party. Okay, now looking at all this, the next question we need to know is that what are the patents or what are the things that secures Arqit's technology. So currently they have 1,004 patents. Okay, so basically what we're trying to tell you is that at this moment today, when the satellite is not up from Arqit, is that they are being kind of protected by this terrestrial quantum keys generation. Okay, then by 2023, when the satellites are up in space, the satellites will be the one that provides this quantum keys support, or rather quantum encryptions to enterprises. Okay, and everything will then be in the cloud, known as quantum cloud, which is known also called as endpoint solutions, that provides for all the devices, cars, and phones, everything. So that's what we are talking about, okay, in the future, and this forms the mode for Arqit. Okay, now I also want to share about, okay, Arqit actually did a good job by identifying all the different companies or peers we talk about, that does some form of security here and there. For example, the first category, the high growth security, okay, CrowdStrike is one of them. Cloudflare, okay, Cloudflare that does rather edge computing security. Okay, CrowdStrike, as we all know, is a antivirus for enterprises. Okay, we also have government tech, where Palantir is quite a very famous tech company. Okay, where founder is like Peter Thiel, who's inside. Okay, now we also have some established security, where Quasys, Palo Alto, and of course there are also recent specs that have come on board. Okay, now what Arqit is trying to tell you is that they are everything. So number one, that they have got listed via spec, so this portion of the circle is done. Okay, number two, they have government tech, which I will explain later in this video. Okay, so trust me, their government tech is really something that I am very excited about. Number 3, there is an established security. Why? They have been in this quantum encryption for many years. So there is an established security because they have existing customers on board. Okay, and number 4, a high growth and security infrastructure. Why is it so? Because the world acknowledge that quantum, or rather the current encryption is not foolproof, so they need to move into quantum encryptions. I also read about articles where Joe Biden has actually pushed forward for quantum computing. So if you link everything together, quantum computing, the rise of quantum computing will allow hackers to easily hack the current encryption format. Therefore, quantum encryption is needed to provide security for companies. Okay. So I also look at who are the leaderships within Arqit itself. So I want to pinpoint quite a few people, which is really amazing. So David Williams and David Beswick, they are the founders, okay, for Arqit. And David Williams, okay, he used to be from Avanti as well as a TMT banker, and also he was awarded Queen's Award for Export 2016. I will deep dive all these key personnel in subsequent videos. So for now, it's really just an understanding of the whole video. So David Beswick is also a former CTO from Avanti. So apparently the two of them came out, or rather formed Arqit. Okay, and David Beswick, right, being the CTO, he won the Royal Astronautical Society Medal Award. So it kind of resonates in some ways. Now, Nick Poynton, who is the CFO, okay, so he has kind of experience in the finance sector. Now, the COO, Rocky, right, he is a Air Vice Marshal RF capability. Okay, so basically he is in the military area, okay, where security defense is very important to him. Okay, that's not all. Look at this, the chief cryptographer, Dr. Daniel. So Dr. Daniel, he used to be the former head of MATS and National Technical Authority for Cryptographic Design. So basically, he comes from the cryptographer background. Okay, and he also has quantum information's knowledge. Okay, so for Dr. Daniel, he has relevant knowledge coming into Arqit. Okay, then after that, the next person I want to talk about, okay, Dr. Jeffrey Taylor. Okay, he has a PhD in quantum molecular dynamics. Okay, next we have Daryl Burns. Okay, she was the former chief of research and innovation and the deputy chief of scientific advisor for national security. So see, think about it, right? Arqit is about security, encryption, and one of them, a consultant on board, is a former advisor, right? Then we also have right, this person I want to highlight, Dr. Tahir El-Gama. I hope I get all their names right, right? Look at it. He is the inventor of SSL, which is the current encryption format. And he acknowledged that the current encryption is not foolproof. Now, being on board Arqit, he brings the knowledge of the current encryptions into Arqit and to help with bringing forward a better encryption security for the world. So this is something that I really want to highlight, okay? And of course, there are a few other generals. For example, General Steve Wilson. Okay, he used to be a former 4-star Vice Chief of Staff for the US Air Force. Okay, he's just retired, apparently. We have General Veralyn Jamieson. Okay, she used to be the former Deputy Chief of Staff of Intelligence and Intelligence Surveillance, Reconnaissance, and Cyber Effects Operations. So we have basically Chief of Staff of the Intel and Chief of Staff of the Air Force. Okay, so if you look at all of these people, they are actually really, really high-level kind of people with very, very rich experience in the security world. All right, another guy I just saw, Paul Freenan. Okay, he is in charge of leading the UK's counter-terrorism planning for the 2012 Olympic Games. So basically, these people are really good leadership in cyber security or rather cloud encryption. So they are in Arqit. Okay. Now, next thing I want to ask myself is that what is the general market like? What's the total addressable market, if I were to put it this way? So you can see, as of 2019, based on if I break down all the different sector software, we have like consumer, securities, network, etc. It's about 125 billion. But by 2024, it's expected to grow about 9.1 CAGR to 194 billion. Okay, so this is something that I want to know the TAM. Not, to be honest, it's not super fantastic. I was hoping it to be more double-digit kind of growth, but at least it's better than none. So we have to take a look and see how it goes. So after understanding the product, understanding the management, or rather briefly, we need to know whether Arqit is it providing a how do I put it, a confirm or rather a use software, or rather a software that is currently serving the public. So they have broke down into 4 different sectors for us: telco, defense, financial services, and automation. So let's go into telco. Telco, BT. So BT is one of their customers. So BT basically is a British telco, a multinational telco, all right, for UK. So it's quite a big company. Verizon, I believe most of you guys have heard before. Now for defense, government of UK is on board. Sumitomo Corporation is on board for the defense sector. Okay, so I will talk about more on the government portion later. Now for financial services, basically they are in blockchains. No, I want to take note, I also go and read about Dentons. Basically, if I'm not wrong, is the 5th largest law firm by revenue, okay, in the world. So of course, for automations, we have BP. All right, so these are the customers that are currently, rather going to be on board for Arqit, depending on which we're talking about. Now, looking at the whole deal signed pipeline for Arqit, okay, they projected that they have about 1 billion backlog that is coming out. Now, if you want to draw this similarity, right, is that if you take a look in 2024, right, they expect the market to be 194 billion. For them, they said that they have about 1 billion of backlog. So basically, they are just downplaying so much in terms of what the market share they can eat and versus the total addressable market. So this is something that we can take note of. Okay. Now, if they break down into all the different 4 segments that forms the 1.1 billion, okay, so 130 million, this is a confirmed deal that they actually have a confirmed revenue that will be coming into Arqit. Okay, the remaining 110 and 140, these 2 are still currently under negotiation. Whether will we get it, whether will we not get it, we will have to wait and see. But based on what Arqit says, that nobody has actually turned them down. So we shall see how it goes, all right? And the remaining 740 is still in the pipeline. So if you ask me, all right, you can only confirm that 130 million is in their pocket, the rest still pending, which we as investor must track every quarter. In fact, basically must track every quarter, every news, and every year. Okay. So in the video, if you watch it later or so on, Arqit mentioned that there are 3 ways that the customers can pay Arqit, but I just want to talk about the 2 types of customers that Arqit has highlighted specifically. Now, the first one is the master distributor. So basically, Arqit will be providing the services, or rather their technology, for distributors. Okay, so then the distributors will be required to find customers so that they and then that taps onto Arqit's technology. Okay, so basically you can look at it this way: is that the distributor are the one that does the job, okay, to get on board. But take note, the distributor who takes on Arqit's technology, okay, will need to sign a binding revenue commitment over 5 years. And if you look at the right-hand side of the video, you can see that, year 1, right, based on the deal, what they need to do is that the distributor needs to have about 1.6 number of customers. Then year 2 is 5, and year 3 is 14, and year 5 is 34. So basically, within the 5 years deal, you need to have 34 customers on the 5th year. Okay. And then what are the typical revenue that you need to commit to when you sign with Arqit's deal? Now, if you think about it, if Arqit's quantum encryption is really the best encryption in the world at this moment, and when these distributors find people on board, do you think after 5 years they will just say goodbye to Arqit? Very, very unlikely, because especially if you think about it, the satellites are all up, they have a full end-to-end kind of security that is providing the whole world. It's really very unlikely for Arqit, for our customers to churn Arqit out. Okay. Now, the second one is this thing called the federated quantum system, in short, FQS. So what is it about? Basically, the government, okay, they acknowledge Arqit's technology and they want it for themselves, because no government will want to, let companies, enterprises run their security for them. But Arqit cannot give up their technology to them. So what they do is that Arqit came out with this FQS, where the government, okay, whichever government it is, will have full control of their technology and how they want to run it themselves. Okay, so basically that's what this pointer says: independence from Arqit's long-term ownership. That's what it is all about. Okay, so currently at this moment, UK government has come on board for the FQS, and there will be 6 more companies that will be coming up, okay, which I will be sharing more in other videos. Okay, now being a spec, so they always, there's the difference, that's the thing about specs, is that they always project their revenues upfront, unlike typical IPOs where they have kind of some proven records in some sense. So for specs, they have projected, rather for Arqit, they have projected that by 2025, their total revenue would be about 660 million. Okay, so this is something that we have to watch out, because if they don't hit, I'm pretty sure the share price will plunge. So this is very, very important that we need to look into it. And if they hit, it is really very impressive, because why? Now we look at it, gross profit margin is 92%. So meaning to say, for every $1 they earn, okay, 92 goes into their pocket. So that's what we're talking about. Okay. EBITDA margin is about 72%, which is really very impressive as well. And free cash flow is it's about 56%. Okay, so that's the financial projection for Arqit, which we must track. Okay, so now I've come to the end of my video. Okay, I hope that this gives you guys a very short understanding of what Arqit is all about. Go and watch the full investor presentation, which is about 30 minutes, to have a full understanding of it. Now, in my subsequent videos, I will dive into the management, the news, etc., so that at least I give you guys a more holistic way of how I do my research. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and do comment down below to see if there's anything that I could improve on, or if there's anything that you guys want to know about Arqit or any other companies. Okay, and with that, invest safe.